Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I am so grateful you've joined us on another episode of the podcast where week after week I bring these amazing guests to share their insights with you and hopefully inspire you. And you know what I'm going to say next, that if you like this episode, please subscribe, rate, review, and most importantly, tell others about this amazing resource. And on a personal note, I am here to help the C-suite leader of today and that of tomorrow to navigate challenges with confidence. And today, it is my great pleasure to invite back onto the show Phyllis Weiss Haserot, who is the cross generational voice and supports multi generational organizations as facilitator, marketing business development strategist, speaker, and best selling author focused on the business of uniting people, purpose, potential, and profits across the generations at work. And she brings such amazing perspective. We're going to go in so many areas, but please, also, she is the author of, you can't Google it, The Compelling Case for Cross Generational Conversations at Work, and several other books. Please check out her work. But Phyllis, I am going to say thank you. Thank you so much for dropping in on the show.
Well, I'm going to say thank you for inviting me back. And we always have, offline as well, some very, very interesting conversations that I think we learn a lot from each other. So I am thrilled to be here, and hopefully your listeners will also get a lot out of it.
Oh, and Phyllis, I know they will. And again, just for my listeners, I was so impressed with her work when she was on my show last time. And she just brings such wisdom. And, she uses the word on herself as being a trailblazer in this particular area of thinking differently. But because she is a deep thinker and she has such great perspective on the topic of, cross generation, communication, collaboration, and being relevant in the workplace. I just had to have her back on. And again, we just have a great conversation and you get a chance to listen. And so I'm not going to start with the usual backstory, but I just want to go right into some of the work that you like to speak about. And I know this is really important to our listeners because we're all going through transitions at one time or another. But I think the key thing that we should be asking the question is, how should we be more relevant at work, regardless of the age? Your thoughts?
Well, thank you for that question. I'm actually trailblazing two new things some of this is like you're the first people to hear about. Um, and that is the concept of authentic age and how that is also related to staying, being and staying relevant at work at any age, because that is something that people are so concerned about. And, these things are cross generational and all. And I don't even think about it as ageism. Let's not even talk about that word, because it makes a lot of people think of the older end of the spectrum of age. And I will tell you that I work a lot with young people, and I have for a long time. I started focusing on the whole cross-generational conversation and other aspects since 2005. So it's been a long time. But the young people get very angry when they are told, why should I listen to you? What experience do you have? And that kind of thing. It's not just about the older end. But with all, as you mentioned, there's a lot of transitions that are going on. I mean, just in the world of work, whether you are an employee, a contingent worker, whatever you are. And I don't want people to shortchange themselves. So my idea of why I developed the authentic age concept and an assessment that is going to be available hopefully by the end of February, anyway, March. It's a matter of getting it done digitally, and I have somebody working on that. That's not my thing. But actually, I developed the first phase of authentic age and the assessment in a Word document in 2013. And I didn't have an interactive way of getting it out there. And what that is 8 different definitions of age, not including the kind of age we usually think about chronological, because I don't think that makes any sense. You cannot throw out a number and visualize, what that person looks like, what their capabilities are, their level of energy, all the things that they have experienced or brought into their life, and how they will relate to other people. And as I said, I don't want people to shortchange themselves. So the whole concept of learning about authentic age is to give people more confidence on their value in the workplace, okay? First, they have to, many people do shortchange themselves. They don't think of the whole picture. They think of what's on their resume and what people know, or what they assume, the stereotypes and such about a person, if they, know approximately what their age is and what they've done. So there are 8 different definitions, and I can tell you what those things are. I never remember all of them.
Don't give it all away. We want people to invest in this, but some of the key ones really that you find are important.
Yes,
Yeah.
what some of the age definitions, age, or their career stage or their occupational stage, the life events that they have lived through. Their generational age is one of them, which is, what they were influenced by economic, social, political, and cultural events. And so why we say that there are generational definitions, even though everybody's an individual. So, don't put people in boxes. And that's one of the reasons that I think this idea of authentic age is so important. People should not be put in boxes. You want to get to know them. And that's, part of what cross the communication cross-generationally is important. We have to get to know people as whole people and what they can bring. And so then there's subjective age, there's relative age, what people think of when they look at you or know you, they don't know the whole story, and how relevant, and physical age. Some people in their 80s and beyond are doing amazing things, are really fit, playing sports. There's no reason that they shouldn't do those things if they're not capable, and you can't assume that they're not. So, that's some of them. And the idea is to produce a document from the questionnaire that you get. Each of those categories or age definitions have a series of questions, and this is not like short answers. You can write as much as you want about this and produce a document that gives you the ability to advocate for yourself, for
Hmm.
promotion, for retention, for pivots, and really expressing, the words to express what your value is and your continuing value. And that's the thing. People, there are transitions that any workplace or any company or organization is going through. That's not gonna stop. It's not about COVID anymore, it's all the things that have changed. Plus, there are new industries every day, so a lot of young people, and as I said, it's not in the road because it's anyone, a lot of young people understand and know more about these new industries because they have colleagues in their, generation,
Hmm.
in networks and all of that, that they can really introduce to older people. I don't mean, when I say older, older than 20, uh, and and so they can do business development around this. So it's not only internal. I've been business development marketing consultant for several decades. And so I always think strategically about that, not just internal.
So I'm gushing here. I'm overjoyed with this assessment. I cannot wait until this comes forth into the world. I mean, the thing that really resonated with me, and I just interviewed another person about self-advocacy and knowing one's value, that rather than judging, self-judging, or others judging by chronological age, when we look at your relevant age, or what is your equivalent age, I think that's really important. I think when we think about generationally, I love that thing that we simply are from different eras for which technology, socioeconomical situations may have been different, pandemics, what have you. We all have different perspectives based on that. But what I love about this is that this is a great assessment for individuals who are reflecting, who want to take the time and advocate for themselves and understand their value. It is not just the resume and how many years here or there. It is easy to count years, but sometimes more challenging to assess and articulate value. And so that is the beauty of this for individuals. But I'm
Right.
curious. Yeah, go on.
To say, I also see that there could be value for recruiters, for um, alumni affairs directors and career, even things in universities, people
Hmm.
dealing with that all the time.
To help us make better decisions about the talent that we bring in. Again, it's not just a number. It is not the number of years you've been in a particular thing, but someone could be much wiser. Maybe they worked in a family business. They understand already business development, customer relations. You might want to take that over somebody who maybe has more years of experience, but doesn't understand what it's like to run a business. So I love this. But
And how you develop, and
yeah,
sorry for interrupting, and how you think about skills.
go there. What do you
It's,
mean?
well, it's their traits, and it may be skills that they developed from volunteering, from their hobbies, other things in their life that they never got a chance to show their potential. There's a lot of hidden potential, and sometimes people are their own worst enemies because they don't even know, they haven't really clarified and brought to the surface those kinds of things to themselves and how it fits in and why they have a relevance that nobody saw before. And if they don't have the confidence that they bring those things to their value, then who's going to know? And they that will be hidden potential forever.
I mean, I'm getting teary-eyed here. And again, our listeners get the good fortune of listening to you and I going back on these social issues here. Because, when I was 5 years old, I was on a stage. I was very articulate. I had a command of the English language. I was selected because I loved to act. I loved to speak and externalize myself. And over time, for some reason, I lost the ability for the arts and I went to being a STEM professional. But I always felt there was something missing. I labeled myself as an introvert. And here I am now on a stage with you, performing, providing value and experience and being expressive. And I so wonder maybe this potential was always there and I never recognized it as something as valuable in service to others. Even if I might not get compensated for it, there are different measurements for providing value to others. So again, you never know. People need to really look deep inside for those skills that maybe they've buried and maybe they need to bring them forward because they are valued by other people.
Right. And maybe they're aware of them.
Yeah.
For instance, there's always been a strong artist side to me,
Yes.
but I've never been able to figure out how, how to integrate it with the more uh, well, less arty, the more business oriented things, the things that I've always done, except volunteer and being on boards of arts organizations. But there's the side of me that has done interior design for myself. I design clothes and I do it now with um, fashion design fashion designer friends and also jewelry. This is a collaboration
Oh, it's beautiful.
between,
Beautiful.
well, the stone is, I love that, but I didn't like the chain that came with it. I mean, these are just some examples, and if you see my living space, but I just I don't even think about it. I mean, I just like to do it. I have my own ideas. I'm very creative. And I may never be able to bring that into my work, but I still like to give it space.
So this
And
is
for us to be happy, we have to do that.
So this is where I recognize your value. I know we're going a little bit off here because maybe you don't necessarily produce a product that leverages your art, but art is through and through who you are in what you wear in the backdrop. Again, for you, for those that are going to see this on YouTube, an amazingly beautiful artistic background behind you. It's what makes you distinctive, interesting, and enables your voice to be heard because you weave in the art in who you are as a being. So I see the artist.
Yeah, and I've always been, I say that my superpower is curiosity and the ability to see trends and patterns before other people see them or never see, and connect those dots to give whatever kind of advice that is.
So what I want, I'm sorry.
Going to say that's where the trailblazing comes from. It's not like I set out to be a trailblazer. I I just see needs out there and I say, this is exciting. I want to do something about it.
Oh, this is really inspiring for me because, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that they're curious and excited about stuff, but they don't act on it. And you do. And that's why you're here today. I want to just come back a little bit to this assessment. We talked about it being valuable to the individual who wants to really articulate their value based on these 8 different dimensions. A recruiter can use this in order to hire the right talent based on the value. But how could this be used by employers? They got a group of people, they got talent, but maybe they could be leveraging them better, moving people into different roles, mentorship programs, what have you. How can businesses use this assessment that I can't wait until it comes out?
Well, when I say recruiters, they could be external people who have people that come to them and ask them to help, find them a job. But you have that internally too, to really think about what are you looking for and be more creative about the job description that you're looking to fill, or
Mm.
moving a person from one department or role to another. Because we know, again, that's putting people in boxes, and you don't want to do that and miss the potential that you could be using. So it's definitely for an organization as well. In
Mm.
fact, my business has always been B2B. So I really wasn't doing things well, I mean, even the coaching, I was hired to coach by organizations, management and organizations. And once in a while, people would come to me directly, but it wasn't like I marketed to the individual so much. They weren't getting their organization. There's a lot of professional service firms that I worked with, but they weren't supporting them in that way. They weren't paying for them to be coached.
Mm.
If they decided they wanted it badly enough, and this started with mostly business development to begin with, they knew that their career and how well they did and how much money they made was that they brought business in, and they
Mm.
didn't know how to do it.
Mm.
And looking inside themselves, I mean, some of these people would never find the answers. I always think it's
Mm.
funny, a lot of coaches or certain strains of coaching think that people have it inside, and if they just ask them the right questions, it'll come out. But for instance, sport, you play a sport. I,
Curling, yeah.
I'm totally bowled over by that. Um, which I knew nothing about. I mean, I knew it existed, but I had no idea what this all was about. But if you for instance are playing baseball, I'm just taking that because I know a lot more about it. I'm a big baseball fan of my life. If you want to learn to be a better batter, the coach is going to have to tell you, instruct you about various things. You can't say, well, if I you know think about this long enough, I'll find the answer inside myself. So, that's a useful thing. It's not always there, but sometimes it's asking questions that people never thought about,
Mm.
and they can think about, what is my answer? What have I done? What have I thought about?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I also have a coach and just asking me those questions that, I'm smart enough, I could probably ask them myself, but when it comes from an external voice and you really are ready and aware to say, I've never thought of it that way, only then can you grow from that. I would love to move this just in a different direction, and I could stay on authentic age for a long time. And this totally makes sense to you, to me, to some of our listeners. But I really want businesses, if they really want to really get the value out of their organization that they should be, versus not having people in the right place and having the old way of doing things, I want this to maybe connect with them from a financial perspective. So, from a business perspective, doing this kind of work, authentic age, putting people in the right places, not boxes. How does this help the bottom line? Because if we can connect business sense to this important piece of work, I would like people to reach out to you.
I think that they, as you said, have people in the right place and see how they can really be most productive in aligning them uh, with their with the organization's core values and the strategy of where the organization wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, you put right people in the right places. I always say you unleash their potential. If you have the conversations and find out what's their hidden talents, what's their capability, maybe there are gaps. And maybe if we put them with somebody else, not necessarily by age, but have also the skills that they need, talk about building confidence and unleashing potential. I mean, the concept of people put people in a box. They say you're a high performer, you're a steady Eddie, you're a low performer. And I think like you, it's like, why? Why do we have that? I mean, people don't purposely try to do poorly. And the people that are in the middle, sometimes, yeah, they want to play it safe and just do their job heads down. But think about the great potential if you could pair people up that have different perspectives, different authentic ages. You could light a spark under somebody and get some amazing unleashed potential.
Right, if people feel happier in what they're doing and have better relationships with other people, they're going to be much more productive and they're going to say good things about their employers. Uh, it's they're going to want to bring other people into the company, let's say, that
Yeah.
that they know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm experiencing that right now with a client, and there's a lot of seasoned people, they're authentic age, they're wise, but they're bringing in a lot of new people. And yeah, they have not had as many experiences, but oh my, if I want to be able to put a particular process in place and I know what good looks like, they hurry scurry, they go on their laptop, they come back with a spreadsheet and says, here, what do you think? And they do it in like a fifth of the time. And I'm saying, yes. And I say, oh my God, this is amazing. You're so smart. I want to elevate those people. I want them to come in and feel like they are providing value versus, let me show you how it's done. Oh, you probably haven't done this before. Let me show you what you need to do A to Z. I interviewed my son once on this podcast. He was probably 29 or 30. And one of the things that I asked him, I says, what does your generation want? I said, we just want some respect. We want to be
Sure,
heard
that's exactly right.
and maybe a seat at the table because they want a voice to create the future that they're going to live in. And I thought that was so
And
profound.
the seat at the table is just feeling like they belong there,
Yeah.
like it's part of them.
I know. And so I really think businesses do need to look at their talent through a completely different lens. And I'm just thinking here, I'm going off script here as to how do we get this assessment out to people? I mean, it's just one of those things that when this comes forward in the next month or so, and probably by the time this show airs, how do we get this piece of work that's coming out in front of leaders? Because it could be a complete game changer in unleashing potential because you look at talent in a completely different way. What are your plans? How are we going to get this out there?
I'm going to get it out to people who I think can be influential. And
Mhm,
the usual thing, whether it's through emails, through
mhm.
doing more podcasts, through social media. My cat, so distracted. He wants to. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the usual ways, maybe joint ventures with people who can see the benefit to them. And
Mhm,
I'm going to. I mean, I've even started some promotional language and things like that.
mhm.
But I'm going to have do have a lot of help, like we, like anyone does with especially a new venture.
So I want to also move in something that's quite related. We weren't sure exactly how much we were going to spend in the authentic leadership place. And I think that's a great first step for businesses and individuals to really understand what their value is. But in that also is once you know what people's authentic age are, and maybe you want to bring them along or pair them up with somebody where they can benefit from one's authentic age or wisdom, you feel really, really strongly in the area of mentoring, regardless of where it comes from. And I
Yeah.
and I just want you just to share your thoughts on this because I have seen so many businesses that don't have this. They leave people to their own ability just to do their work, and without mentorship, they're again not unleashing that potential. I mean, tell me a little bit more about your thoughts about the critical nature of somehow integrating a mentorship framework within organizations to also unleash potential.
Love to. Another favorite subject of mine. Also the cultural part of that. I think, and I have drawn up a long, fairly long list of what is missing in mentoring in organizations if they do it internally. And and that is that some people don't have time, they haven't been trained as mentors to, some people are just not good at it. And so it doesn't go on consistently. Um, there's there can be conflicts that are hard politically for the mentor to be dealing with the mentee.
Mm,
That all organizations have politics. You know that very well. You have a long, um, employee and management career. So there are a few things that I think they need. The other thing that that is missing, and is what I'm also, that's one of my things in development, is to enable people who are the mentees to get more than one perspective, and age wise or generational wise. If the one mentor can't really provide a whole lot of perspectives. And they can on different things, but not from um, um, a generational perspective. And I think most people have finally been willing to admit that there are differences, that but it's an important part of DEI, even though, that's having perception problems about what it is now, unfortunately. But you need to have, to get a more universal view or more perspectives view of whatever the issue is. And so my new mentoring venture is about having teams, older and younger, together, mentoring, and literally together, either sitting in the same room or being on the same Zoom, so that people get a more comprehensive perspective. And the other thing, as I said, is conflict resolution. I heard a lot about that, and people, there's a lot of conflicts.
mm,
Whatever the generation is, that may not be the issue, or the age difference, but there are conflicts between workers and their managers and leaders. And often that's shut, dealing with that is shut down, or people are afraid. That's afraid they're going, it's going to hurt their career. And yet, if they don't, there's so much that doesn't come out and doesn't get done.
Yeah, I am finding in some of the work that I do, whether it's senior leaders or people wherever they're at in the spectrum, we have not equipped them along the way with the skills necessary to bridge the gap with conflicts. And I too, to this day, avoid conflict, but I have learned a lot of skills to establish common ground, seek to understand that there's a gap between what one expects and the other. And hopefully both are emotionally intelligent. You don't have inequity in terms of how people react, because people will avoid yelling and screaming and passive aggressive behavior. If we can get through that, oh my, this world would be a better place if we could teach those skills. But I want to come back to that group mentoring concept. I had a smart mentee who said she had me and somebody else as their mentor. And I too recently have two. And they both give me sound advice or get me to think differently from completely different areas. One is in my technical lane, and the other one is in my marketing and branding lane. And both are so valuable. I can't wait for this piece of work to come out, because the multi-dimensional aspect that you bring to mentorship is critical to accelerate people achieving their potential. It's absolutely amazing. So I can't wait for this to come out, but I do want to start winding this down, because I want our listeners just to realize all the value that you provide, this assessment tool, your mentoring venture, all the stuff that is going to come out of your creative ways. I can't wait for all of this come out. But I want to just give you a last opportunity for people listening to this. A couple thoughts around, again, the things that we talked about, whether it's the assessment or just how to look at things differently in order to have that multi-generational, cross-generational. Any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners? Because I do want them to reach out and look at your work.
Well, I think in all kinds of ways, we have to do something about the terrible divisive there is. The divisiveness in society and companies and all of these things. And, the way to do that is to develop real relationships, deep relationships, not just superficial. And I always like to give a challenge at the end of this podcast to say to people, choose 3 people that you don't work with in a regular kind of thing, and reach out to them. Don't wait for somebody to reach out to you. I was asked who should start these conversations. I said, why not you? And say, you want to talk, and, don't, not necessarily starting off with really intrusive questions for them, but say, I'd really like to get to know you as a person in ways that we've never talked about before, because we will learn so much more about each other. We will feel more comfortable. We will discover things that we could do together and be more productive. And so, so do that. Tell me how it works out. After you do 3, do 3 more. I'm not afraid of hard conversations, and that's why a lot of these things are easier for me, because I started doing that and very early on, actually, first with my mother. She took it very well. And so once you find that the world doesn't come to an end when you try to get over those things, and that's a lot about conflict resolution as well. So that's one thing. And I love getting questions. Please get in touch with me. I am willing to have short conversations without charging you for it. Whatever more you like to learn about the things we've talked about. And so let's do it. I want conversations with you.
So, as I say sometimes on my solo episodes, tag your it. You have been given a call to action. Please reach out to 3 people you don't know, because again, this world is about connecting with humanity. You never know what value you're going to come from having these engaging conversations. And by the way, reach out to Phyllis. So, Phyllis, thank you so much for dropping in on the podcast. I appreciate our friendship, our intellectual conversations, and I just want to wish you well and much success.
And likewise to you. Thank you so much for having me again. I love it.